Welcome back to another edition of Rick's Picks. I'm Elaina Rusk alongside 17's entertainment expert Rick Bentley. And I love, every week we talk about a batch of 10 movies. Sometimes it's 5 best, 5 worst. Sometimes we just featured the 10 best works of Val Kilmer, which I still think about that segment so much because it was such a tribute after we lost him.
And you know, I've had friends who've clicked on it and watched it online, and they forgot about a lot of the movies and went back and then started watching some of them. So that's the idea behind this program, is to sort of trigger you into stuff that you may not be on your radar.
Exactly. And so now we're putting things on your radar for the summer ahead. So often we're looking back at a batch of 10 movies. We're going to look ahead to 10 movies that are coming out summer of 2025. You know, Rick, for so long with COVID and with the actors and screenwriters strikes, we didn't have a lot to choose from. And now it looks like there's so much in the lineup. Yeah,
it's funny. And summer movies are huge. It is when Hollywood really makes its big bucks. When we get to the end of the year, we'll see some big movies, but mostly that's for awards.
Okay.
So the summer is the big time for that. And just to sort of put that into perspective, last year's top grossing movie for the summer was Inside Out, which took in $647 million. That's a lot of money for one picture.
And especially for an animated picture.
For an animated picture. But it does reflect what the summer's all about.
Yeah.
People are out of school, parents who can on vacation. There's more opportunity to go to the films. And the summer before, can you guess what the big movie was that summer?
Summer 2023. No.
I can give you a clue.
Clue?
Barbie.
Barbie. Oh, Barbie, duh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Barbie took in $612 million.
Yes.
And then the year before that was Top Gun Maverick with $701 million. To show you how things have changed, 50 years ago, the top summer movie was Jaws.
Yeah. Crazy that was 50 years ago.
I know, it's hard to believe that shark has been around for that long. That movie grossed for the entire summer $69,000. You know, that's staggering compared to what we're bringing in at the movie theaters now.
Right.
That's why Hollywood, there's a word business in show business, because it's all, somebody asked me today, why are they making so many sequels and stuff? It's all about the money.
It's all about the money. And I wish that they would get a little more original. So we do have some originals to talk about coming this summer, but really it's kind of the summer of remakes.
Look, the theme of this summer is remakes and sequels. Yeah. But we will start with an original.
Okay.
Because on May 2nd, Thunderbolts comes.
Okay.
Now, there's the early buzz on Thunderbolts. This is a new Marvel movie about a sort of a haphazard group of villains who are brought together to save the day when the Avengers are no longer available. There's the early buzz on it that this is a pretty decent film.
Okay.
The problem I'm having with buying into that, and I would certainly want to see it, is the fact that this is the release has been delayed 3 times, and it always worries me when a film gets bumped and bumped and bumped. But this film, it's the second film this summer. This year from the Marvel people, Captain America being the first. Okay. And it's supervillains turned heroes that features the cast of David Harbour, Hannah John Carmen, Julie Louis-Dreyfus, Sebastian Stan, Wyatt Russell, Olga Kurylenko, and Florence Pugh. And basically these villains are brought together because the Earth is being threatened, and they have to save the day. And again, they're not the Avengers. They don't have those. They don't have that Hulk power among them. And so can they do it or not? Basically what it comes down to, if you need to shorthand this sort of thing, DC had the Suicide Squad, which brought together villains to save the day. That's exactly what I
thought of, yes.
And so Marvel's playing it down. We're not doing our version of Suicide Squad, but when you bring together a group of villains to save the day, and you've already had that with the other competitor, people are going to make those comparisons. But again, it kicks off the summer movie season with the Thunderbolts, and again, we don't know. The name actually has an asterisk at the end.
Oh. We
don't know why. We don't. That's sort of one of those secrets you'll have to find out as you watch the movie. But it's part of the fun of this film. Again, Sebastian Stan's probably the one name, the person you recognize there. He was in the Captain America movies. Florence Pugh was in the Black Widow movie. And David Harbour's probably best known for Stranger Things. But anyway, the film looks like it has great potential. I worry about those early reviews and all that good buzz, because the tendency of studios is the people they show it very early to are the fans.
Dedicated.
Are the people who are going, they're the ones who loved Craven. And they're going to love anything and everything that's got Marvel connected to it. So I always take those with a grain of salt. Probably early.
There's the asterisk.
Yeah, early this week or early next week, we'll start seeing the reviews from all the other critics around the country.
And I don't even know if you have an answer for this. Is there any prediction on when enough is enough? There's like 75 Marvel movies, it feels like. I couldn't keep up, and so I've fallen off. So now you hear another one, you're like, didn't we just have one? And you're kind of over it. But at the same time, it's great action on the big screen. And like you said, you have dedicated fans who love all the spin-offs.
Even when we have bombs like Craven or Madam Web, they still keep making them because one, they own the property. So there's a cheap cost there. Two, there's the merchandising we always forget about, where they're going to make far more money than they make on the movie. And as long as the people are clamoring for it, what we're going to see is it's going to get even worse because DC has sort of ramped up what they're doing now. And we will, in this segment, we'll talk a little bit later about what I think is going to be the big buzz of the summer. But it's coming from DC. Okay. But DC has a long line of projects they're planning to roll out. So between Marvel and DC, we're just going to get superhero after superhero. And it's also sort of infected television because we're seeing, we just recently saw on Disney Plus the Daredevil series.
Yes.
So we've got all that out there. So this genre is not going away anytime soon. It's going to take a real major disaster for it to end. And we've had three, if you count Morbius, three big fails, and yet we keep going.
And they just keep making all that money. And like I said, I do like having big action on the big screen. So that's the first weekend of May. What do you have coming out that's big after that?
Okay, May 23rd. We're going to and again, there are a lot of movies every weekend, but I've had to pick 10 that I was just going to focus on. And that's Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
And this is number
8 if you're keeping track of the Mission Impossible series. The weird thing about this is this was originally going to be called Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 2. Oh. Because Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning came out 2 years ago. Yeah. If you remember, that was the case where Tom Cruise's character, Ethan Hunt, goes on a quest to find these 2 keys to unlock this secret weapon, but we ended it halfway. And we all thought that, well, next year we would get it, and it got delayed, and so now we're finally getting to it, even to the point where they've changed the name. It's now called Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And I'm really kind of hoping this is the final thing as far. Nothing against Cruise, but when he started making the Mission Impossible films in 1996, he was 34 years old. Okay. He's now in his 60s. And there is a point where that action hero thing begins to wear a little thin. So I'm hoping this is it for him. 8 is really enough.
Eight is enough for a series, but at the same time, I do like the Mission Impossible series because you have so many fan theories, and even as it goes, it always surprises you, especially the first one, the peeling off of the faces. As a writer, I like when I can't predict where the movie's going to go. I like seeing how people talk about it and the different theories that come out. So I would hope that number 8 kind of wraps everything up, but also gives you a little bit of that surprise in each little turn.
Yeah, but I'm just cautious because the previous movie, which was the prequel to this one, came out so long ago. I literally am going to have to go back and watch it to remind myself of all the details of it. Because you're right, they always have these plot twists, they always have these surprises. If they were set up in the first film, and then you watch them here, you're not going to get it. Yeah. And so I will have to go back and review that, and I think a lot of people will. But again, this new one coming out also stars Haley Atwell, Simon Pegg, Vanessa Kirby, Ving Rhames, and Isa Morales. Ethan Hunt is back on the hunt. And again, there we see Cruise doing as many of his own stunts as possible. But again, and I'm in that older demographic. I'm not pointing any fingers, but there is a point where the body says, I can no longer hang from an airplane.
Right.
I think it's time for Ethan to hunt for a new storyline. And, they could easily keep the Mission Impossible franchise going if Ethan Hunt becomes the guy just in charge.
The mentor.
And he sends out a young group of people to solve the mission.
And there is something to be said about a man in his 60s still doing so many of his own stunts. Yeah. When they were coming out with Top Gun Maverick, I remember the buzz was like, oh, come on. Yeah. And he killed it. It was awesome.
Yeah. But again, he was a pilot. I mean, there wasn't as much action sequences in that. And he was great in it. I still wish that sequel had come out 20 years earlier. Again, as we talked in our Val Kilmer piece,
Yeah.
it was been nice to see him had a bigger role in it, but the fact we had him in that is still great.
It's still great. So that's Mission Impossible 8. Then after that, same date. There's also
Same
something
date.
else on my 23rd.
It's going to be very interesting that day because families are going to be divided. Do
Yeah.
you want the action of Mission Impossible, or do you want the live action version of Lilo and Stitch? Now, this is an interesting film to come along after the Snow White debacle. I mean, Disney was going along doing these live versions of the animated films and doing pretty well. You know, Cinderella did well, but then they started getting into this group of films like Mufasa and especially Snow White, which is still considered one of the biggest bombs. The Disney company is going to lose $100 million off that film just because nobody showed up for it. So will Lilo and Stitch do that? I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I'm looking at the previews. I think they've got the right idea. You have a live action film, which is fine. You have live action characters, but you can then animate the Stitch character, and that will work fine if you can blend those two together. So I think this is a case where doing a live version of it may work. I still don't know.
Right.
I mean, we've got great hope. But basically the film will feature an actress by the name of Mia Khaliloha, who will play Lilo, and the voice of Stitch is going to be provided by the guy who created Stitch.
Oh, cute.
And so we get that familiarity, okay? And from what I've seen from and again, all these films we're talking about now, I have not seen, so we're only talking about basing on trailers and everything. It looks like they almost go frame per frame to the original animated film. And that's the other big mistake I think Disney made, especially with Snow White.
Yeah.
When they started to veer away from the original story. If we loved that original story so much, why change it? So in this case, it appears like they're sticking very close to the original animated film, which was a very good film.
It was.
So why sway away from that? That does beg the question of, do we really need a live version of it? And you can argue either way. It's nice to have it back. But again, I think I would just as soon watch the original animated one. But I do feel like this one has the potential to do much better than the original Snow White, the live action Snow White did.
And also, I like the way they animated it. He's not a cute little stuffed animal.
No.
He's not overly CGI. I think it's done well from what I see in the preview. And I've seen a huge resurgence in love for Stitch. My friends, my daughter's friends, all have Lilo and Stitch slippers and jammies and backpacks and stuffed animals. And so to see the live action come out and be not only just a fun callback for all of us who love Stitch growing up, but it also seems to be such a celebration of Pacific Islander culture.
It is, yeah.
And so seeing that come on the big screen is pretty cool. And I think whether it's good or not, you'll have so many kids who love Stitch right now going back.
Yeah, and I know these are different companies, but when I look at how they've animated Stitch, it almost feels like they learned a lesson from the Sonic franchise on how to bring that character to life, because they made a lot of mistakes trying to bring Sonic to the big screen. And I think these people, not to say that they did listen to all that and hear all that, but I think they heard it all.
Yeah.
And so I do feel like the animation for this does work. Stitch is an annoying character.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get, these clips don't make it look like he's that annoying.
Yeah.
Looks like he's just perfect for the tone of that movie.
Yeah, I really feel like it's done well. And again, we haven't seen it yet, so this is all predictions, which I like.
These are just movies we're going to be talking about a lot this summer.
And fun to look forward to them.
Exactly.
So what's next on your list?
Well, the next one is on June 6th,
Okay.
and it's called Ballerina.
Yes.
Now, it's not a dance movie. Please, don't go taking your kids thinking we're going to see Swan Lake. Ballerina is the latest spinoff from the John Wick series. And basically, this is the story of a young woman who was put through the same training that John Wick went through and is working with the same organization. And she becomes just as vicious an assassin in this. It stars Anna de Armas, who we might remember from the Maryland movie.
Oh, that's where she's from.
That's where she's from. I have seen the previews of this. She seems to handle the action sequences very well. I think this is a movie that's going to show us that action genre can work with a female. Okay, she plays a female assassin that's trained by the Ruska Roma, the criminal organization that's headed by Angelica Houston. She plays the director. That organization was glimpsed in John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Okay, I don't know a lot about the story, but I can say that it does take place between the chapter 3 and chapter 4 of the John Wick series. So anything that happened in chapter 4, like the loss of a character, we don't have to worry about that because it's in between those two.
Like a 3.5.
Yeah, and I can tell you this, that you will see Keanu Reeves, the original John Wick, in this film.
Cool.
From the last trailer I saw, it seems he's there to eliminate the Ballerina. So that could lead to what would be one of the better fight scenes on film.
Yes.
So if they keep, John Wick films are not known for their deep meanings. They're basically a body count movie. It's that the absurdity of, the hero can fire one time and kill 10 people.
Right.
10 people can fire 100 times and not kid her.
Right.
But if you're just looking for that pure energy, that pure action, and she does have a little bit of intensity to her. I think it sort of feels like if you were going to do the Black Widow movies without the superhero element, then the Ballerina would fit into that.
When I like the juxtaposition here too, because ballet is so effortless and soft and weightless and beautiful, and she has all those talents that then become these hard, violent stunts. And just from seeing the clips in the preview, my husband loves the John Wick series. I love ballet, and so I think it's a perfect date night for us.
It may be. And if you've watched any of the John Wick films, you will realize that a lot of those films are choreographed almost like a ballet, the way he's turning and shooting and spinning and everything. And so there is a dance, feels like a dance element to this slaughter of people. But that combination, I think, is why those films do so well, because you're right. It brings in more than just guys who want action, especially with this one when you have the strong female character. I think it's going to be a great date night movie. Yeah. It's going to be a bloody, dark, date movie, but if that's what you like, I think you're going to find it with that. Yeah. We'll see in a few months.
Sounds good. Okay, so what's next after that?
It's interesting that the next film is another live action version of an animated film, but it's not Disney this time.
Okay.
It's the How to Train Your Dragon.
Yes.
That's going to be opening June 13th. Now, the animated version of a young Viking who befriends a dragon is just a great story. It was wonderfully animated. There were a couple of sequels that weren't as good, but that original animated film was so good. Well, it looks like, again, as we've talked about earlier just with Lilo and Stitch, with this film, it looks like they're going almost frame for frame, that they're keeping the original story. I do feel like it's going to concentrate more on the friendship between the two more than the secondary story, but I do feel like they're going to stick very closely. And again, another example of how it's smart to use real people and good animation. Animating people is the hardest thing to do, but animated characters is easier. So this is the original film. The original film was a coming-of-age story that followed Hiccup from childhood to adulthood. But the plot of the action film will focus on Hiccup's first meeting with Toothless, who's that friendly dragon we talked about, and who he just can't bear to kill. And that means even if he has to break the tradition of his village home, where the Vikings and the dragons have never gotten along. But again, it's a story of friendship. I guess you can call it a buddy film in some ways. It's also, in some ways, if you love animals, respect for nature. But again, as you can see in this, there really feels like a great blending of the animation and the real footage. And I think that's why this film has a good chance. As long as they keep the heart of what made the original animated film and not get too far down the path, I think we're going to be fine with it. The early trailers on this, again, make it look like it's going to be one of the fun films of the summer. Probably one of those films that you can take the entire family. Yeah. Because the kids will like the dragons. There's the human element, the action story in it. So I feel like this is one of those that could be the family film of the summer.
I think so. I'm really looking forward to it. My children love the animated version, and so I was scared when I heard there was going to be a live action that it would be too scary. And like you see, the dragons in the ring are very realistic. I know they're fake, but it's very lizard-like and monstrous. But then the dragon that they train has the friendly, sweet, approachable. I think it's a little too much for my 5-year-old, but my 8-year-old's counting the days. Yeah. And so you know your kid's best.
Yeah, and again, people always ask me, can my kids see this movie? I don't know your kid.
Right.
I mean, I've known some 5-year-olds who are 25. that mature. I've known some 25-year-olds who are 5.
Right.
And so all I can do is when we review, and we will, every one of the films that we're talking about today, we will review on our Friday segment.
Yeah.
I will point out, I find there's the intensity to this. I don't feel like there'll be a language situation or adult problem. I just feel like there may be violence, and again, too intense for some kids. That's up to you to decide. It's not up to me.
And you so perfectly said that I finally got to watch Wicked a couple weekends
Right.
ago, and you had mentioned the whole movie's pretty great, but at the end the monkeys are a little scary,
Yeah.
and you were absolutely right. It was too much for my kids. I watched it so I knew when to turn the TV off for them and be like, you're good.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. All I can do is say, this scene I found intense. I think it might.
Yeah.
And so, as a parent, that's your job to look. And if you decide, do what you did. You make the decision.
Yep.
Don't leave it to me. Oh, Rick said it was a no.
Right. And that's why they give them ratings PG, PG-13.
Right.
You're the parent giving the guidance.
But again, in the case of Wicked, almost everything in that film is okay, except for that one little sequence.
Yeah.
And again, it is really an intense scene. Really
It was
is.
indeed, yeah. Okay, so let's move on. We're still looking ahead to the rest of the summer. Now
Yep.
we're halfway through June.
We're June 20th for a film that definitely won't be for the entire family.
Okay.
It's 28 years later.
Oh, yes.
This is the trequel, I guess, whatever, to 28 hours, 28 days, 28 months. I don't know.
No, it's years.
It's right. And now it's years. And basically, Danny Boyle, who created the original film, is back directing this film. And he co-wrote 28 years later with the guy who helped him write the original movie, Alex Garland. And the cast includes Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer, and Ralph Fiennes. I don't know a lot about the plot of this, but I can tell you from the previous days, there was an apocalyptic event. Can you survive, the 28 days? Can you survive the months? Well, now we're jumping ahead 28 years later, and we see that the world has survived in some way, but there's been a lot of adjustments. And how would the world look different after this sort of apocalyptic event? Fans of the original films, I think, are going to embrace this because they love that franchise. And I like the fact that Danny Boyle is back. When you bring back those original people to put their mark on it, because the second film was not directed by him. I don't know if it was as good as the original, but again, the sequels are never quite as good as the first one, so I can't blame that on the director. But I can say it's nice to have Danny Boyle back. So again, this could be, I'm looking this to be the big horror film of the summer. Yeah. And again, this is why the summer is so great. There's all kinds of movies. We've just gone from a family-friendly How to Train Your Dragon to in a few weeks, then there's 28 Years Later, which is definitely not going to be family-friendly. But there's an options out there.
Yeah.
I mean, families can pick. You can get a babysitter or not. And please, I have been at R-rated movies with children in there, and they're laying on the floor and they're crying. I consider that a form of child abuse. I will tell the theater manager that but the theater managers will tell you we have no right to stop them. They can bring those 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds in there to watch zombie movies and everything. I feel it's horrible, but the theaters can't do a thing. I mean, it's their right to buy that ticket. And so...
And that's hard. I know as a parent, it's very expensive to go out. It's hard to get a babysitter, but it's really, as a child who grew up with nightmares, let's try and spare our kids.
Yeah, give them time.
Yeah.
Because you do have options like How to Train Your Dragon and Lilo and Stitch and, even a couple other movies that are coming up. So there are options out there. Don't give in to it. I know it's easy not to get the babysitter, but come on. Respect
Wait
your
for it
child.
to come out on streaming and put them to bed.
Yeah.
I agree with you there. So now we're going to move forward to the 4th of July weekend, and this is July 2nd.
July 2nd. It'll be a Wednesday opening.
Okay.
And when we see those Wednesday openings, that's when Independence Day movies used to open all the time. Well, this one's going to be Jurassic Park Rebirth.
Okay.
So we get the dinosaurs back. This larger-than-life dinosaur phenomena that the Jurassic Park franchise, it's returning to the screens with new life. Through uncovering any plot details has been about as difficult as unearthing dinosaur fossils. The latest installment is executive produced by Steven Spielberg. So it takes us back to that original brain behind it. Features an all-star cast that includes Scarlett Johansson, Jonathan Bailey, and Gareth Edwards, who directed Godzilla, is the director of this. So he knows how to deal with those big creatures.
Yep.
Again, Jurassic Park set the standard for me years ago. I will never forget seeing the original Jurassic Park
So good.
and seeing it in the theater, seeing these dinosaurs. I literally thought, they've brought dinosaurs back.
To life.
There's an interesting story about that first Jurassic Park. They wanted to do clay motion for the dinosaurs. And a couple of the tech wizards built these dinosaurs on computers. And so when the executives came in to look at the footage of the claymation, they showed them that, and they went, well, we're not doing claymation.
Right.
And again, it took massive computers to generate that. We can do it a lot easier now. But they've refined it down where we really do feel like these dinosaurs exist. So again, I don't know too much about this plot. I just know that a group go back into an area where there's dinosaurs. It's sort of the ultimate horror film in that, don't go in the woods, don't go in that house,
Right.
Don't go in the basement. Well, don't go into an island filled with dinosaurs.
Ugh. And it's one of those, I don't like horror. I am not going to go see 28 Years Later, but I'll line up for Jurassic Park. So you know your taste.
Exactly.
I love those actors. I really enjoy the series, as scary as it is, and as much as I won't let my kids watch it and it gives me nightmares, I still really look forward to it.
And it's one of the things we, as critics, have trouble finding the genre, how to describe it.
Right.
Is Jurassic Park a horror film? Or is it a thriller? Or is it an action movie?
It's all of the
It
above.
sort of fits all of them.
Yeah.
So trying to pigeonhole sometimes is just impossible.
And such a great opening for the Wednesday before the 4th of July, which falls on a Friday this year. So if you're going to go out, again, a good movie to make sure you have babysitters for. This is for the teens and older. Even teens, it's a little...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then if it comes to streaming and you've seen it and you realize you can cover their eyes at a couple places,
Yep.
you can do that.
There you go. And now you have your choice.
Yep.
So now we've gone past 4th of July. What comes up after that?
Well, July 11th is the film I'm waiting for, Superman.
Okay.
DC Studios CEO James Gunn, who did a lot of work with Marvel, he's directed, written, and produced this latest reboot of Superman. His design is to bring a new, modern Superman to the screen. This is not going to be one of those origin stories where we talk about Krypton blowing up and how he got here in a ship. No, this is going to focus on Lois and Clark. Henry Cavill, who had been playing Superman recently, is out. It's David Cornsweet who's taken over the role. They wanted somebody a little bit younger and could play a little bit darker. What we're going to see with this Superman movie is how he's trying to balance his life in Kansas, because he still has a family with a family farm, and then his role as hero of the world, where not necessarily everybody's embracing him. There are people who say we don't need these and quote unquote godlike creatures telling us how to run our planet, and so there will be some backlash to it. One thing I do love as a comic book geek is the fact that they're bringing in Krypto, Superman's dog, in this, and Krypto has always been one of my favorites. It's so weird when you talk to people about comic books. A lot of them don't realize that there's a whole arc full of super characters. There's a cat, there's a horse, there's a monkey, and all of them have different origins. But Krypto's always been my favorite, and the opening sequence, Krypto plays a huge part of this. But we're seeing, it's still not going to get away from the fact that it's Luthor against Lex Luthor against Superman, but it is going to be a little bit darker. It is going to put Superman in a world. I do think it's weird that we've got the Green Lantern character played by Nathan Fillion. When the original Green Lantern movie was going to come out a few years ago, everybody put out they did this online push to have Nathan Fillion play Green Lantern. He didn't get the role, so he's back in playing Green Lantern. But it's the Guy Gardner version of Green Lantern, and so he came along two after the original, and he has this weird bowl haircut, which you think, I would have changed that for the modern times, but it certainly does stick to the original comic book character. I love the idea that there's another Superman movie here. I'm interested to see how the tone changes. I'm interested to see somebody else put on the cape.
Yeah.
And maybe for a future date, we should do a story on all the people who played Superman and how well they did it.
I think that'd be fun. Let's do a ranking of Superman
probably
movies.
Closer to the release of this movie.
Right, yeah, because it's so hard to think, how do you follow Henry Cavill, and you do it yourself. And again, just prejudging by what I saw in a trailer, it looks like he does a very good job. He has the look of Superman. I like the way he was kind of angsty during Clark Kent, and then he puts on the cape and kind of becomes bolder and brighter. I'm looking forward to seeing that on the big screen.
Yeah. And we're winding down the time, so I do want to touch two more things.
Okay.
July 25th is the Fantastic Four First Steps.
Okay.
This is going to be a very interesting movie because if you look at the clips here, it looks like the Fantastic Four world is in the 60s.
Yes.
Marvel created this wonderful thing with multi-universes. And so you can have a universe where the 60s is going on right now in that universe and not here. And so that's what we're seeing here. This is what the Fantastic Four would have looked like had that movie been made in the 60s. If you know the comic book, the uniforms, the characters are all dead on. Mm-hmm. And they're bringing in the character, one of the major villains in Fantastic Four, in the Silver Surfer.
Yes.
But they're giving the Silver Surfer a sex change. It's a female Silver Surfer rather than a male Silver Surfer. So I'm looking forward to this. I do like the idea of this. We are told, though, that while this exists in a different universe, later on when we get other Marvel movies, these characters will come blending in and be with those other characters. Because there's a big one coming up for Marvel that deals with Doctor Doom.
Yes.
And we're probably going to see every Marvel character you can imagine in that, probably a lot of these people.
Okay, is there a time for that yet?
July 25th.
July 25th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then we'll move on to August, right before school gets back. You have another family-friendly movie.
Yeah. It's the sequel to the 2003 movie, Freaky Friday. It's Freakier Friday.
Freakier.
On August 8th. Many of the cast members from the original film are back. That includes Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan as a mother and daughter who switch places.
Yeah.
We've seen this used in a lot of different other movies and TV shows, but they really set the tempo for this when they did the film back 22 years ago.
It's been 22 years.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they deal with a modern day body switch.
Yeah.
But for fans of that, obviously young people who are fans of the Freaky Friday probably have kids now who they're going to introduce to this. So it will be interesting to see how all this goes.
It's also neat to see Lindsay Lohan have a comeback because she was such a child star, and then she had some personal troubles in her personal life, as many child stars do. And now suddenly she's had several new movies coming out. But I just have to give a shout out for Jamie Lee Curtis. From her very first movie to today, no matter what I see her in, she's fantastic.
Yeah, and she's always been great. She's one of those. I have a list of actors I feel like if they're in a movie or in a TV show, it's going to be automatically a little bit better. And Jamie Lee's one that's always on that list.
She's one of those. I love it. So we are out of time. That was so much fun, Rick. Thank you.
Okay.
And we'll do this again next week. Have a great day.